Okay, it's 1:02 p.m. Eastern, so we'll get this started. Hello, everyone. My name is Johan Uruti, and I have the pleasure to co-host that session with Tim Dunton. Hello, Tim. Nice to see you again.
You
And
too. Nice to
yeah,
be here.
all right. So today we're going to discuss 7 changes that will redefine your condition-based monitoring program. As usual, some ground rules. We will be having a discussion, myself and Tim, but as always, feel free to intervene, ask questions into the Q&R section or the chat. Feel free to, well, speak up if you have something relevant for everyone in the group. We'll be very happy to give you the mic or hand you the mic, of course. This session is held in English. It is going to be recorded and available to all of you and your colleagues and friends and family if you want to share later on the YouTube channel. So we have 1 hour. Let's get this started. My name is Johan Uruti. I'm the Director of Technologies for Reliability Solutions. I'm an engineer originally. I've been working in the maintenance and reliability domain for more than 15 years now as a practitioner and a trainer and reliability engineer or consultant. Currently, my work at Reliability Solutions is Director of Technologies, which means I take care of everything that regards software implementation and so on and so forth. Tim, what about you?
What about me? I'm Tim, Reliability Solutions. Been with the company just about since it first started. Been in reliability just about all my adult life. And I started off actually in the world of vibration and PDM back in the 80s. And of course, things have changed significantly since then. And I think some of the innovations we have are exceptional. We have better data or better quantity of data than we've ever had before. But are we really using that information properly? And really, I think that's really our purpose today, right, Johan? Is to try to talk a little bit about how do we utilize that and make this stuff really effective for us.
Exactly, Tim. Some words about Reliability Solutions, what we are. One thing that I can say is Reliability Solutions acquired Spartacus, Lubit, and Amri at the beginning of this year. So, Lubit and Spartacus are APM and lubrication pieces of software that can help with maintenance strategies, digital routes, and asset health in order to generate corrective actions as quickly as possible into the CMMS. What about the other reliability services and training offer? Tim, give us a couple words about this.
So we started out as a training company, and again, some of you I remember names from way back when we were primarily about essential skills and craft skills because that was the big gap. But we pretty soon recognized in our sort of evolution that maintenance skills is just one little piece of the reliability puzzle. So we try to offer, or we do offer, a very broad range now of reliability training. I know a couple of you on this call came through the engineering leadership series at various times, and that's really another sort of element that we have. But over the last 5-6 years, we've even evolved even further, where we provide a lot more reliability services than we ever used to do before, because we recognize that we can train people in the classroom and train them well with good courses and things like that. But at the end of the day, you only see $1 return on that investment if you apply it. We found a lot of people were struggling to apply it, so we do a lot of that type of coaching and mentoring and field work to help people really get the benefits and really apply the knowledge that they learn in the classroom. So we do a lot of greenfield sites, QA/QC, where prior to the plant even starting up, we come in and we'll build your PMs using our ASD process. So when you start the plant or the new section or area of your plant, you kind of hit the ground running with all your PMs built and inspections ready to go.
Yeah.
But enough about me and us.
Very good. Thank you, Tim.
Let's get on with
Let's
the
get
show.
started. All right. So there are two ways to look at the future, because in the title of this webinar, we mentioned what will the future look like. Now, of course, as we would like to think of ourselves as, prophets, myself and Tim, especially Tim, we don't know for sure, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So there's always a difference between what we think will happen and what we wish will happen. And we'll try to, make the difference within that webinar. What we think will happen is based on probability, right? Looking at the past and the present, and based on the context, uh, estimate or predict what will most likely happen. And there's always a gap between what will most likely happen and what we wish will really happen based on our, values, our needs, our imagination, and kind of hope factor, right? So um, it's and if you guys are into philosophy and you've read philosophers, I'm thinking of Spinoza, for example, who said everything is determined and everything is the consequence of a previous cause, etc. Well, it's not. It's uh, what he's saying is that freedom does not exist. Freedom exists because there are, yes, probabilistic trends, but if we are aware of this and we want to change the culture, and well, there's a way to influence the future. So really today what we're going to present is elements that we think will happen, and how we see the future of condition-based monitoring to evolve, but as well how myself, team, and companies like Reliability Solution will influence on how things should evolve, right? So we're gonna try to balance between those two and kind of close the gap. So there's a yesterday or the day before we sent a poll to most of you. We didn't get too many answers because it was a bit last minute. So we're going to host two polls, and the first one's going to be right now, and the second one will be at the end of this webinar. The first one will be about what do you think the future of condition monitoring at your facility will likely be, right? So there's a QR code, you can scan it, and we're going to see the results live on the screen here. No information, no personal information is captured through that. So be at ease when answering that. And yeah, so what do you think will likely happen at your facility? Talking about the future of condition-based monitoring. Hmm. Interesting trend.
Mm-hmm.
We have 20 answers so far out of 74 participants. All right, we're starting to see a trend here. What do you think of number one, Tim?
I think there's probably a lot of truth to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have all this data, but we're not actually using it because we're not using the data to provide the proper insights and information to fix the problems. So you never end up fixing the problems. You just learn with all this data how messed up you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
at the end of the day, you've got to fix something.
mm-hmm. I find it interesting that first answer is, or top answer is, it's going to be mostly reactive, and the second answer is everything will be predictive thanks to AI. It seems like a bit contradictory, isn't it?
The two ends of the extremes there.
Yeah. Yep.
The AI will tell us how messed up we are.
Very good. Well, that's well, it's a good start to that webinar, I find. And okay, so that this is what you think the future will likely be. And let's focus on our perspective. So we've done the intro, so we're going to discuss about the foundation of modern condition monitoring in the next few minutes. But then we'll discuss about, more upcoming paradigm shifts. So let's go. So introduction, like you just mentioned, Tim, well, we have more condition monitoring technologies than ever before. We've got sensors all over the place, SCADA system, live monitoring, wireless monitoring, dashboards, data historians, etc. And to convince yourself, if you want to go to a maintenance and reliability trade show, you'll see a new company selling wireless vibration sensors every couple months, right? Or it seems like every week there's a new company that pops out with a sensor. And so yes, what we see is that there's more sensors, more data, more dashboards, but not necessarily fewer failures, right? So there's definitely, again, a paradox here, or contradiction.
Yeah, there's some really good comments coming up in the chat right now, Johan, as well. Lots of tech, but no culture change, right? That's what we have. Mm-hmm. We have all this data, and I think there are people who are fearful of who's going to teach the AI what to do, because the AI can't learn it on its own, right? Mm-hmm. I like the expression we're going to become drips. Well, we already are drips. DRIP, mm-hmm. Data rich, information or insight poor, right? We have all these huge data systems, and people have been selling big data for a few years now. Mm-hmm. So we've got it. What are we doing with it?
Exactly.
The bottom line, guys, until we learn how to deal with that data and utilize it and create actionable items out of it, it's never going to see value.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we quickly turn this data into actions? Yeah. What is not the future of condition monitoring? So we had fun, Tim and I, writing down a couple of things that we hear and we think will not happen, right? So autonomous robots roaming around the plant. What do you think of this, Tim? Is it realistic?
Actually, I've seen it. I mean, the Boston Dynamics dog, I think it's mm-hmm. a really cool piece of technology. But who tells the dog what to look for, right? Mm-hmm. If you're talking completely autonomous, then they just get up in the morning and do their thing. There has to be human supervision, adult supervision behind all of these types of tools. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could see VR headsets being worn by maintenance technicians to pull up procedures and things like that. But who is the adult supervisor who's making sure that that information they're pulling up is correct? How many times have people on this call right now gone to YouTube to find out how to do something around the house, only to find the first 3 videos they pulled up didn't work and were just stupid from some influencer, right? Who's going to curate all of this data? It's all information, it's all data, but who's curating it?
Yeah, absolutely. And same thing for remote condition monitoring. It is absolutely possible and doable, but saying that it will only be that, it's just, I think, pretty limited view. So to us, the solution is yes to all of this, except maybe Mario Kart, all right, with knowledgeable people, right? So
yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of vibration, started off doing that, and the problem is I can look at spectrum data from 1,000 miles away, but when I'm out there collecting the data, actually out there with the machine, I'm gathering huge amounts of subconscious data about what's going on, which is very, very important to me, understanding the true nature of the failure. Yeah, I could tell you you've got a bad bearing. I can do that from 1,000,000 miles away if I need to. But how do I tell you why the bearing's failing? Because it's only when you understand that are you going to be able to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I love that bottom line right there. These
Yes,
tools
sir.
should be force multipliers.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have some adult supervision, knowledgeable people behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Great point.
Yes, sir. And there's a good comment in there, that although you might deploy sensors all over the place, it's undermined by gaps in the planning and scheduling process. How surprising.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And here's another great comment. Non-maintenance reliability stakeholders must have some sort of training. We need to educate ourselves as users and customers of this data. It is our responsibility to be educated enough to know when people are blowing smoke or pulling the wool over your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's a big gap I see in a lot of facilities I go to, is all of the decision making regards machine condition is placed on the shoulders of the vibe tech.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be that way.
Yeah.
You have to know a little bit. You don't have to be the expert, but you have to know enough to have the conversation.
Yes, sir. Exactly. All right, moving
Good
on.
point.
Moving on. So, couple changes with regards to the foundation of modern condition monitoring. So, we're going to talk about failure modes and using the right tools to detect the failure modes. So, well, first of all, here's a statistical analysis that we made a few years ago. And so I can tell you a little bit about how we got to that data. So we're working with dozens of vibration analysts using the same methodology of collecting data with the same type of vibration collector, same methodology of analyzing and reporting data. It's within the Spartacus software. So this is how we extracted that data. I think we spanned over a couple of years in a certain area of North America where the standards are the same. So we extracted, I think, 300,000 vibration measurements or collection. And out of that, we extracted, I think, a few thousand alerts, right? So in the end, the ratio results, normal results versus alerts was around 4 to 5%, right? And so we took all of these alerts and we looked at the failure codes, right? So what are the potential issues? And this is the result that we see here on the screen. And it's divided by type of industry, right? So you've got the pulp and paper industry, oil and gas, food and bev, mine and metal, and what we classified as others. Well, you can look into the details and you can take a snapshot and you can compare yourself to, based on the industry you work in. I'm pretty sure you're going to be, you're going to find it very similar to your reality. But in the end, if you look from pulp and paper to oil and gas or food and bev, there are some slight differences, but in the end, it all revolves around the exact same issues, right? And we'll get to the consolidation and concatenation of that. But out of very quickly we can see lubrication issues, looseness issues, bearing related issues, unbalance a little bit here and there. So
all those top three are the same failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all the same failure. What it's telling us, though, is we don't understand which of those it was.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
So the bearing's loose. Are all your bearings you buy have bad internal clearances and they're all loose? Does SKF really do that bad a job?
Mm-hmm.
And if we were lubricated and we did have grease in the bearing, where did the grease go? How can the lubrication run out?
Mm-hmm.
Where does it go to? Oh, let me see. if the machine's misaligned, I kill the seals and then the lubricant escapes. Over-greasing, I absolutely. And we get into the habit of over-greasing because we keep losing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very similar with oil analysis. So analyzing a few thousands of oil samples, and surprise, top one failure mode is contamination, particle contamination, right? Why is that? Well, we receive the oil, we don't filter it when we receive it, or we filter it with bad filters with the bad or poor beta ratio. And then we store the oil without the proper cleanliness standards. And when we transfer the oil from the barrel or the tank and put it into the machine, we use this, poor containers.
My coffee can isn't good enough for that? My coffee mug
Tim,
isn't good to do that? Damn it. I'll rinse it out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And once it's in the machine, well, there's poor breathers, poor seals, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not even it's not a surprise that particle contamination is the top one failure mode with regards to oil analysis.
I think what surprises me a little bit about that chart is water so low. I have always assumed that, I guess it's industry dependent, but in a lot of industries, moisture contamination is way up there, almost the same as dirt.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. Tim, well, so okay, so and we could look at graphs all day. In the end, one of the things we did is we took all the vibration related failure modes from all industries and we concatenated everything. And in the end, when you consolidate everything, you realize that the top one failure mode is what it's related to poor installation. Second one is poor bearing maintenance. Third one is poor lubrication practices. It always all boils down to that. Yeah, it's as simple as that: installation, maintenance, and lubrication. So the change number one would be to focus on the real failure modes, right? So, Tim, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so we are hugely, as a species, very guilty of trying to deal with symptoms. I feel some pain, I take an aspirin. I don't deal with the underlying reason. And it's just the same in the world of reliability. We saw there the top three failures are bearing related. When I ask people, and I obviously go to a lot of sites, teach a lot of classes, one of my first questions is, well, what do you think causes most of your problems? And everybody's hand goes up and says bearings. But what that tells me is we really don't truly understand what the real failures are. The bearings are just a symptom of something else. It may be a lubrication issue. It may be an installation issue. It could be operational because we didn't align the machine properly, right? It could be the environment. We're subjecting the bearing to external conditions, heat, moisture, vibration, whatever, that it's not designed for. If we truly want to drive root cause, and I'm not saying we have to have everybody sitting in a room doing formal root cause analysis, but we need to develop, as reliability folks, we need to develop a root cause mentality. And if you're going to get to the root cause of something, you have to get beyond just the technical root, understand the human root, and then, of course, the latent root that comes underneath that. Because the only time your problems go away is if we assess and address the latent root. And somebody mentioned in the chat very early on, it's about culture. You can define culture, what people do. And when people are looking, if I'm doing everything I should do with my bearing heater and my white room and my gloves and my polishing and everything as I install the bearing, and then the second nobody's looking, I turn around and just start beating on it with a hammer like I normally do, you're still going to have this type of problem. And I don't think we do enough thinking around what's the human root. And you never should do a human root unless you understand the latent root, because it's never the human's fault. It's the system that allowed them to behave that way's problem. How much of that do we do? And again, here we go. We talk about bearing failures, and we categorize them in our, to try to simplify things a little bit, divide and conquer: installation, lubrication, operational, environment. And again, the number one issue with a bullet, by far and away the biggest source of bearing failure that we see for installation is fits. We do a terrible job of fitting bearings to shafts and fitting the deck, right? We don't mic the shafts. We don't do everything we're supposed to do there. It's terrible. Lubrication. Somebody mentioned over-greasing is going to be way more common than under-greasing. Operationally, we misalign the machine, which puts stress into the bearings, which squishes the oil film. It's not a case of you're physically overloading the bearings and you're exceeding the tensile strength of the steel. What you're doing is you're squishing the oil film such that you get metal to metal contact at the microscopic level. That creates stress concentrators, which leads to your fatigue. And, basically all bearing failures for the most part are fatigue type failures. And then we subject that machine to excessive heat. Obviously that kills the lubricant, but it also reduces the oil film thickness, which leads you back to the same failure mechanism, right? Moisture is the same way. So moving on, before I continue my rant.
So you wanna talk about how to detect the failure modes, Tim?
Yeah. So have a reliability of solutions. And when I teach vibration analysis and I teach these types of subjects is, first of all, what are the failures that you wish to control? What do you wish to control? And when you start looking at installation issues on machines, the biggest thing we see is alignment. We do terrible jobs of soft foot, correcting short leg soft foot and angle foot. Absolutely pitiful. And those of you that have lasers, all due respect, the function that tells you you're checking for soft foot is not really a function. It doesn't do the job. It's measuring shaft deflection. It's not actually measuring soft foot, where the soft foot actually resides. But to identify these types of problems, vibration is probably one of the best tools. Mechanical stuff, vibration is actually pretty good. Certainly, we try to encourage PDM and condition monitoring folks to come at it from several different angles. Don't put all your eggs in the vibe basket. If you think you've got something going on vibe, go ahead, hit it with infrared. See if that confirms your hypothesis. And of course, if you've got a misaligned machine, chances are the coupling will be running harder than normal. Laser alignment tools are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Luddite. I absolutely love lasers. We have all the different types in our systems. However, I can still do it with dials if I need to. When we talk about bearing defects, again, lubrication, reduction in thickness of the oil film is the public enemy. That leads to that metal to metal, those asperities touching at the microscopic. They call it micro welding or adhesive wear. That creates the stress concentrator. That's where the fatigue cracked, and that's where spalling comes from. And again, over greasing, way more of a problem than under greasing. When we look at a rolling element bearing, a ball bearing, there are three types of friction present. One is rolling. Another is sliding, as the balls or rollers slide by the cage. And the third is fluid friction. Of those three, fluid friction is by far the biggest source of friction. A byproduct of friction is heat. Heat reduces oil film thickness, and on and on and on, right? And what's the very first thing you do to a hot bearing? You go whack a bunch more grease in it. Let's increase the fluid friction. Let's increase the friction, make it hotter. A little bit of grease is good, more is better. That's just urban myth. It's a very, very hard paradigm to shift. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. All right. So paradigm shifts. So let's give you a couple more. Change number 3, from periodic monitoring to continuous awareness. So traditionally, we've been, doing monthly vibration routes or quarterly oil sample and annual thermography, or, and really the frequencies here don't matter. And really what we see as future model as we have technologies that develops and gets more accessible and more powerful and performant is, more wireless sensors, continuous monitoring, streaming data, right? Because the idea of wireless sensors, vibration sensors, if I take the example, is to say, well, within that month time frame, a lot of things could happen, and that's true. So why not having a sensor that would continuously monitor during that period of time, and you would send your vibration analyst with his collector and more fancier analyzer only when you see anomaly or trend up, right? So, and yeah, that's the idea. But in the end, as we mentioned before, more sensors does not really equate to better reliability, because as we see on the, that picture we see on the right of the screen, typically what happens is that you are overflown with data, completely overflown with more and more dashboards, alarms, etc. And yeah, you ended up drowned into data. Um, so so one of the things we we advocate for you to properly navigate throughout that data lake, or river of data, if you will. Well, first is to have the right IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. There are some organizations that they want to demonstrate quickly enough that they can visualize alerts, alarms, and issues through machines. So they'll do a kind of a proof of concept, and they'll come in with sensors, and at the end of the day, with LTE or SIM cards, you're gonna end up with a dashboard with all the lights, like Christmas tree lights and everything, and boom, you're gonna end up with, yes, alarms and notifications and so on and so forth. But that's when you want to do a quick and easy. But what happens if you want to now, you want to spread that all over the plant or over multiple sites? Now comes, of course, the question of IT, because typically, scenario number one that I mentioned, you don't involve IT, because typically in maintenance managers' heads, IT equals problems. IT equals slowing down things. And yeah, it's the perception. And there are reasons, actual reasons why IT are very cautious. It's because of cybersecurity. It's about ransomware. It's about taking ownership of data networks, etc., and so on and so forth, right? So there are valid reasons for them to be a bit cold feet about that. So moving into that direction without the proper IT infrastructure and cybersecurity is definitely risky. So we would advocate for that. Of course, right training for users. Uh, it's not because you suddenly have a dashboard that people will either know how to use it or use it properly and actually take action from this, right? So properly train the people on how these dashboards and tools actually work. Yeah, and the third thing is, well, these data must drive action. So you generate notification that turns into an alert. Well, that alert, if it confirms a problem, should then turn into a work order or work notifications if you're using SAP, right? So it must be embedded within the work management process, right? And properly identify an issue so that the planner doesn't look at a work order or work request that just says something's going on, right? Something's going on, but what is going on and what should I do? Should I replace the bearing? Should I send someone to put a bit of grease, or you know what I mean? So there's really a lot of depth into implementing these technologies. All right, change number 4 from data silos to unified asset health. This is actually the continuation of what we just discussed. So currently, if you're doing condition-based monitoring, well, you may have a dashboard or a report for your vibration analysis or your sensors, your live sensors, but you may also have to log into a portal for your oil analysis from your lab provider. And you may also wait for the PDF report from your IR, for your MCCs and electrical panels, like comes in once a year or every 6 months through your provider, and so on and so forth. So basically you end up with a couple of dashboards, a couple of workflows, and it is very cumbersome for a reliability engineer or reliability technician, name it how you want, to actually take that data, analyze it, and turn it into an action, which is in the end a work order, right? So really the future, what it will be, and the trend that we see is a unification of asset health, where you've got all of these sources of data that are very good, but completely siloed into just one place, right? Feels like, think about it, if you're feeling sick and you go to your family physician, is gonna send you, take a bunch of tests, but if in the end, if that person doesn't receive all these, blood samples results, EKG results, and so on and so forth, it's a bit blindsided, right? So the idea is that everything in one place, integrated with the CMMS, because in the end, the CMMS remains the maintenance and the work orders system. Change number 5, from experts to augmented engineers. Tim, what can you tell me about this?
So there again, when we talk to folks on the street, and again with the aging workforce, the silver tsunami, or whatever you want to call it, obviously a lot of our senior reliability, knowledgeable folks are starting to retire or have retired. And so how do we fill those gaps? We haven't been doing very well in terms of succession planning for this. We haven't been bringing new people along, and it's across all the reliability trades, not just PDM and things like that. So how do you bridge that gap? And I think there is a place for AI here, but it has to be adult supervision. I think what we can use AI for is as a force multiplier. So I can use AI to assist me in creating reports. I'm still the one who's supervising the report. I'm the one who's developing it. I'm the one who's looking at the data or reviewing the data and making sure AI aren't telling lies and stuff. That role will always be there. But what you'll find AI will be able to do for you is, instead of me doing, I don't know, 3 reports a day or whatever it is, maybe it takes me an hour or 2 hours per report or something along those lines. Maybe I get that same report done in 15 minutes. I know our guys in the field, as we develop strategies and things like that, are using these types of tools to accelerate the production of this information. And having used it extensively in a reliability environment, as we develop it, we've actually created our own sandbox with our body of knowledge, reliability solutions body of knowledge. So we don't even look at the outside world. We just look at our knowledge and use that to do stuff. Even then, it needs adult supervision, and that's the key. But it's not as much as it would be if you had to have 6 folks doing the same job, right? I see all the sensors as great tools. I see some issues with them, particularly in vibration, and particularly if you're relying solely on the AI to make your decisions. That's a very dangerous situation. I was involved last year in a couple of fairly significant RCFEs, root cause failure eliminations, on, a $25,000 pump, or sorry, $125,000 motor, that failed 3 times in 3 months. And it was the same failure mechanism every single time. The problem was the online wireless monitoring system, and I won't mention who, that was monitoring this system didn't detect it. And it was a catastrophic non-drive end bearing failure. I mean, the root cause is something else of why that happened, but the root cause of why the system didn't fail, I was involved in that. Why did the system fail? And it was funny. We started the call, and the first thing I was lectured for. This guy didn't know who I was, but he was lecturing me on how this system works and how they kept that 14.6 billion points of data per second, and why our algorithms are the best in the world, yada yada yada. And what he didn't realize is that I already understood why the machine had failed and why their system had failed, because I had photographic evidence. I'd been to the machine and actually looked at it and taken its picture. And when we took a look at these, I let him go for 20 minutes, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "Great, but what happens if your sensor's in the wrong spot?" And the room went very quiet. And I flashed up a photograph of this vibration sensor mounted on a motor shroud that was never, ever going to see the temperature or the vibration that bearing was producing. I said, I love the fact you got all this data analytics, but what if the data's garbage? And that, to me, is a big, big question mark around a lot of these massive online systems that we see. Who installed the sensor? Did you just pay, or did the vibration company pay some 10 cents an hour contractor to just go glue sensors on somewhere? Or were they put there with purpose and reason and thought, right? And so, garbage in is garbage out. This is why we need not reliability engineer or PDM engineer replacements. We need augmented. Let's give them the tools. I love the idea of having the data coming to the technician, and then if an anomaly happens, the technician runs out with a box and does real analysis. I think that's great, because right now I think a lot of our PDM folks spend all their time running routes, just trying to look for trouble, and never have any time to do the detailed work, the analysis, getting to both the technical, human, and latent roots.
Yes, sir. Change number 6 from inspections to defect discovery system. Let me explain to you what we see here on the right of the screen. It is a list of routes, visual inspection routes, or mechanical routes, or operator rounds, if you will. So each row represents a route within an APM. And there's a couple of things we can look at, and what we're going to look at is the average compliance to the schedule and the failure detection rate of these routes. So what is the failure detection? It means that every time I executed that route, did I find at least one potential failure, right? Because that's what you want to do, right? If you execute a route or PM route or operate around, it's to identify future defects so you can fix them later. So the first one, case A here, has a schedule compliance of 50%. It's been executed 6 times over the past period of time. I don't know exactly how it is, right? So yeah, 50% of the time. But the failure detection rate is 83%. So 83% of the time, we found at least one issue. So the recommendation here would be, well, you should comply a bit more with the schedule, because really that route is very positive in terms of failure finding. If you look at scenario B here, the schedule compliance is 100%. So every time we've done it on time, perfect. And the failure detection rate is actually 60%. So 60% of the time we went and executed that route, we identified at least one failure. That's very good. Continue as is for that one. But as for scenario C here, 64% of schedule compliance. It's been done 135 times, so I would guess that this is a daily operator route, but the failure detection rate is 0%. 0% means, well, something's wrong clearly, because we've sent someone every day, day after day, to find for issues. never found them. So that can lead to a couple of conclusions. First, it's possible that these assets are good shape, good reliability level, and no issues to report. It's possible. Second is, what about the content of that route and the failure modes that I'm asking the operator to look for during that route? Are they the right one? So going back to the failure modes of the components and the assets and how to address them in a timely manner.
Johan, are
Yes,
we
sir?
even asking the operator? Are we even asking the operator to look for specific failure modes? Because
Exactly.
I'll guarantee we're not. We're just saying, go look at the pump. Operator looks at the pump. Yep, it's a pump. Nothing found.
Yeah.
If you are not asking specifically, I want you to do this, 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 and this inspection. And by the way, I need you to look for this, 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 and this failure mechanisms. If you're not asking for that, then I question the value of the round in the first place. I see huge opportunities for folks to start driving their inspections from the actual failure modes. Ask yourself, well, what are the failures I wish to control? If we aren't doing that, then we're just doing inspection because some guy on a webinar said it's good to do inspections, right? We see that. I see this all the time. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with operator care rounds and any kind of inspection type routes.
Exactly. And last but not least, from maintenance metrics to strategic execution. So typically, mean time between failure, number of alarms, number of alerts, etc., are the typical KPIs. And really, what we wish the shift will be is to be more precise on the execution of the maintenance strategy here. So here is an example of overall maintenance strategy effectiveness, which is the equivalent of the OEE, right? It is a multiplier of a couple of factors here. Number one, maintenance strategy deployment. So this is out of your maintenance strategy and all the maintenance tasks that you have in your program, how much of it have you actually rolled out? It is very good of doing ASD and PMO and all that stuff, but are you actually implementing and executing the routes that you created and the tasks that you defined? So here, example, 83%. And then out of the routes that you've put in the planning, have you actually executed those tasks, right? Did an operator or a maintenance technician actually went in the field, looked at this machine and the failure modes that you identified? And then in the end also, did you, yes, and task completion. So in the end, you end up with 45%. Is it good? Is it bad? Not sure, but really try to steer away from just MTBF and those generic metrics and focus a bit more on the execution of your maintenance strategies and the failures that you identify.
I'd add to that. I've been involved over the many years helping people get operator care programs and inspections off the ground, right, and building those. I grew up in the merchant marine where it was the most natural thing in the world for us to do that. Not so much here ashore, but the very first metric you need to do is compliance. Are they doing the routes? And that absolutely makes sense. But hopefully, fairly shortly in the evolution of this, as you ramp up, you're 90% compliant, 100% compliant. What comes after that? And to me, the next metric, and this is such an important thing because it's going to drive your entire work system, is notification. What is the quality of the work request that's going in? Because if you can make a step improvement in that quality of that notification, your entire work management system, from prioritizing to planning to scheduling to execution and all the other stuff that comes on, is going to be amazingly improved, incredibly improved. Because right now, your planners aren't planning. They're trying to troubleshoot why the pump quit, because that was the notification they received. We've got to get beyond that. And again, the only way I know to do that is to challenge those who are writing these notifications to tell me what the failure modes are that you're seeing. One of the nice things about Spartacus is and why when we actually bought them and But before we bought them, I mean, I was involved in looking at the stuff. It's a system that drives that. It drives that. Every single inspection has a list of failure modes to go look for, which is very, very exciting for me as a reliability guys, because we've been teaching people to build those strategies and ASDs, and a couple of you I know have been through the series, and so you know what ASD is all about. Well, Spartacus becomes the bridge between the hideous spreadsheet that we create as part of ASD and the real world. Because you've got to get people out there doing inspections, whether it's with technology or not, to start thinking about what are the failures they wish to control.
Exactly. Thank you, Tim. So, as promised, one last poll before the end of this webinar. What would you wish the future of condition monitoring to look like at your facility? So earlier it was what you think will happen. Now I'd be interested what you wish to see in the near future at your site. So here's a couple of potential answers. I'll let you respond. All right, so starting to see a trend. Skilled teams empowered by better tools, not replaced by AI.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I stop voting now? I've only voted 400 times.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is exactly what we are advocating for. So our brainwashing session worked well. I can see that. But yes, I think we share that wish that AI will be used and spread, but it will not replace humans. It will be a force multiplier, but we need to empower the teams with the right skills and knowledge.
I agree with that. Again, it's the technology in general, not just AI, but all of these tools, all of these technologies should not be seen as ways to replace the human input. And obviously, I'm of an age where I grew up without all of this stuff. I see the tremendous potential it has, but the way it's being pitched to us these days, and again, your comment about trade shows is wonderful. We've got companies now that make pipe or something like that. All of a sudden, they've got their own vibration monitoring system. Everybody has this stuff, and so the pitch is big data is going to solve the world's problems. Well, I'm sorry, but it isn't. Big data is just going to, if done properly, will only at best tell you what's something wrong. It's not going to tell you what the problem is. It's not going to tell you how to fix it. We still need that. Having AI type tools that are curated, first of all, and based on good knowledge, because there's you can Google anything you want, but half the time, if you don't know enough, you're going to head down the wrong pipe, right? There's a lot of junk out there as well, just as there is on YouTube, for example. Mm-hmm. So you need the security and the knowledge to be able to recognize what the AI is telling you. And the only way you get that is to become a knowledgeable consumer. Mm-hmm. A very wise guy used to work for us years and years and years ago called Brian Davies. In his career, he'd been the global M&E manager for IP, for KC, Scott Paper Company, and a variety of different organizations, deeply into RCM as I was when we worked together. But Brian once told me that never ask a question you don't know the answer to. And when he first said that to me, I took a sip of my beer, and I said, well, that doesn't sound right. If I knew the answer, I wouldn't be asking the question. But his point is very valid. If you have no idea about an answer and you ask a question, you've basically got to take whatever the answer is as gospel. If you know something and you've taken the time, you don't need to be the expert, but if you know something, when you get that response, if it doesn't jive with what you think it should say, at least you can then have a conversation and make an improvement, right? And I think we're all looking for the easy button, that Staples easy button. I'm here to tell you, in reliability, guys, I don't want to disappoint you, but it don't exist. We have a responsibility to be knowledgeable enough to be able to ask the right questions, right? It's our responsibility to do that. And again, another analogy, you take your vehicle to the shop and say, hey, something wrong. Throw them the keys. How much is that going to cost you? If you take it to the shop, you say there's something wrong. When I tap the brakes, it squeaks or blah, 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 and gives them some more information, a better work notification, shall we say, your bill will be significantly less.
Thank you, Tim, for this. So, yes, hopefully that was insightful. We've had some very good comments in the chat.